Hello and welcome back to Star Technology. It's Hayes again. Evidenced by the blocks on the ground here, I did a little bit of cleanup between videos to open up the lawn base a little bit. I was getting tired of walking around these things right here, so it had to go. Last video, we got quite a bit done and catapulted ourselves straight into low voltage, so today we're going to pick up right where we left off with the LV energy converter. I already have the soul sand and invar for this, so I'm going to mix them and smelt the soul infused dust for further processing. I'm going straight for the 16 amp converter, so I'll need 4 16 times wires to craft. With Create, we can get the 1 times wires down to a 1-to-1 ratio with ingots, so we'll need 64 ingots plus some extra to extend out to our machines. It's a bit expensive, but I recommend using the 16 amp converters and thicker wires here in the early game with your single block lines just to avoid catching anything on fire. I also recommend always using superconductors for wires because they don't lose energy over distance or shock you like other wires will. For low voltage, the superconductor is soul infused, but with each tier the superconductor will be the same ingot as the one you use to make the energy converter for that tier. Once the converter is up though, we can run FE or forge energy into it to convert it into EU or energy units, which will come out of the red face to be used by LV tier machines. We could use laser IO to transfer to this, but I'm going to be a bit lazy for now and use create connectors. Now that it's set up, it's time to start making machines to attach to this. I know the low voltage assembler might look tempting, but I advise starting with the cost efficiency machines like the bender, lathe, and wire mill to save steel and other precious ingots. The bender saves the most ingots when you're crafting the rest of the machines, so that's what I'll be starting with. I gotta admit, handcrafting these machines is pretty sucky, and it's not as bad as what's to come here very soon, but hope is on the horizon in the form of AE2, so all you can do is deal with it for now. Scarlet moved our line to a slightly more convenient location while I crafted that, but after getting it placed down, I'm going to immediately throw a couple stacks of steel in there to prepare for these next machines. You may have noticed the circuit selection in the machine GUI. It will also give the option on input buses and hatches, but with this we can change what recipes we want our machine to do. Pay attention to the circuits when you see them in JEI because at least a good portion of the time when your machine isn't working, it's because of the circuit being on the wrong setting. With the bender made though, it's time to start knocking out some of these other LV machines, so I'll be right back once we get a few more set up since this next bit will be mostly handcrafting. Alright, so we're back with a few more machines and ready to progress through LV. Like I said, we started with the bender, lathe, wire mill, and polarizer for more efficient materials, so now we can move on to some important passive setups for resource generation. The first passive setup I want to knock out is Slatake spores to smelt them into resin, and for that we'll need an aqueous accumulator and 2 large barrels, so nothing too fancy here. We can wall share our barrels to save some resources, but we need one of them making witch water and the other barrel making spores with that water. To get the witch water from one barrel to the other, we can actually make our output hatch push directly into the input hatch for the next barrel to use, so that's nice. And once each barrel has the spores it needs, everything should be running, so to finish the automation off, we can put a drawer on the output bus of this last barrel for more output space. With that complete, I'm actually going to go around and add travel anchors to parts of our base to make getting around it a bit quicker. I would have added them earlier, but since they cost 4 steel double plates, they're a bit expensive to craft before you have a bender set up. But now that we have these, getting around the base will be easier than ever. After that, I checked on our steelworks, kindly escorted a few llamas off the base, added more single block machines to our line, and then set my sights on the LV ore generation multi-blocks. Scarlet will handle the rock filtrators for us, thankfully, but I still have to handle what is probably the absolute worst recipe you have to handcraft in the early game, the void extractor controllers, and to make things worse, I need to make 4 of them. It's not that they're expensive so much as the fact that it's just layers upon layers of Greg nonsense to get them crafted. As much as I dislike crafting them, having good resource generation will be very important for getting through the rest of the game, so I'm crafting 4 of them. We might end up making more later on, but this should produce more than enough ores and slurry for now. As for the rock filtrators, we'll also do 4 to run on Circuit 0 with gravel, but we'll definitely add another 4 to run on Circuit 0 with sand sometime, probably in the next video after we unlock the MV energy hatch. Back on the topic of void extractors, we'll have to set up some sort of passive or semi-passive drilling fluid. For this, we just need to distill creosote into lubricant with a distillery, then mix that with water and stone in a mixer. This will be fine being manually fed creosote and stone dust for now, but we'll switch to something fully passive later on down the line for sure. Now, bear with me guys, because my recording of us setting up our electric blast furnaces got corrupted, but it's nothing too special anyways. For everyone's sanity, they will be henceforth referred to as EBFs, but these pretty much just cost a ton of nickel, and not much else otherwise. The nickel isn't too particularly hard to handle though, with the pentlandite from the void extractors and iron processing in our ore factories making it pretty light work. I wanted to make more than 2, but considering the fact that our power is supported by a single steam engine, we're limited to this for now. After making absolutely sure power is stable, I ran around to do some more machinery stocking, and all of these semi-passive setups may seem a bit overwhelming to deal with, but it's a bit necessary to get through LV quickly, since making a lot of these fully passive takes longer than just keeping things restocked. AE2 will take away the pain soon, so it's worth it. From here, we're going to focus on getting aluminum for medium voltage machines and Certus in preparation for AE2. Since we're in low voltage, the only option we have for aluminum is sapphire processing, mostly from the washing step. It's a bit slow, but we can try to maximize the amount we get by cutting, then macerating, then washing our sapphire geodes. Macerators don't give byproducts for now, and they won't until high voltage, so we'll have to survive on the 33% chance from the ore washer for the time being. You could use plain old water for the cutting step, but it takes twice as long with water as it would with consuming lubricant, so we're going to be using lubricant since we're making it for drilling fluid already anyways. At this point in the run, we're about done with everything we can do for low voltage as far as machinery, so all we can really do is run around restocking things while our geodes process and our signalum cooks into ingots. This is probably a good point to upgrade your create power setup in my opinion, since we'll want more EBFs especially, but I think I'll put that off for between videos for now. To be honest, low voltage is just such a short tier with not a whole lot of content, so I'm beginning to run out of things to say here, but I think I'm going to start crafting up the MV processing machines, double our EBFs, and then wrap the episode up. I highly advise making an electrolyzer as your first MV machine. This is mostly for the better aluminum recipes from sapphires, rubies, topazes, and actually a ton of other methods. If you want to set up passive aluminum, I suggest doing passive clay dust electrolysis, but it's not really necessary to dedicate machines to it full time, so I'm not going to do that setup. Fully passive aluminum... Oh, cut that. The MV centrifuge is probably the next machine to focus on for all the products that come from the ore slurries out of the void extractors, which would also help with the material cost of the next machines we'll have to make for progression in the future. We ended up getting these crafted as our signalum was smelting, so we're actually ready to start MV. But before we do, I'm going to set up 2 more EBFs since we'll be using them excessively from here on out. I'm not going to hook these up to power quite yet because we still need to give our power an upgrade like I said, but getting them ready to go for now will be extremely useful after we get that taken care of. Like I said earlier, these mostly just cost nickel, which isn't that bad at all, so after collecting all the materials for this, it's time to set it up for later. With that, I'm actually out of good LV material to cover since we're pretty much ready to start medium voltage now. And that ended up going way quicker than I actually expected it to, so it's time to wrap it up for today. We got quite a bit done as far as resource generation, and we even started to get some base planning done, as you may have noticed. Just making some block decisions for right now, but by the end of the next episode, we'll end up getting something like this on a much larger scale after Applied Energistics is set up. But yeah, that's all we have for today, so with that I'll be signing off. Hope to see you on the next one. Ciao!